Kowski. Are there any citizen comments?
I have none.
Temporary chairperson.
It is recommended that the board appoint a board member as temporary chairperson for the purpose of reorganization.
This is from the three holdovers, with the three holdovers voting. So that's Mr. Carson, Mr. Rhodes, and Mrs. Smith.
Heather Smith.
I nominate Mrs. Smith, Heather Smith.
No. Can they do that, David? They haven't been sworn in yet?
Only the existing members
They can vote only for the existing.
can nominate from the existing pool.
Just a temporary chairperson to
And
run the
vote.
meeting.
So can
Still,
that vote be
You first
made
vote
right now?
a
No.
new board president,
Okay.
then the new board president takes his seat from the temporary.
So only
chairperson.
Mr. Carson, Mrs. Rhodes, and Mrs. Heather Smith can recommend someone as a temporary chairperson.
Oh, okay.
Make a nomination. You can have more
Make a
than one.
nomination for a temporary chairperson.
I nominate Gail Rhodes.
Anyone else?
Last call. Anyone else?
For the purpose of reorganization, Mrs. Rhodes is our temporary chairperson.
Now you call for a motion for the secretary to cast a unanimous ballot in favor of Mrs. Rhodes, with those three members being able to do a voice vote.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes? Mrs. Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes is our temporary chairperson. Sure, okay.
Reading of certificates of election.
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Westmoreland, Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Election of said county, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the municipal election held on the 5th day of November 2019 in said county, it appears that James W. Beistel, Jr. was duly elected to the office of School Director at Large for a term of 4 years in Southmoreland in the county aforementioned. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Westmoreland, Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Election of said county, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the municipal election held on the 5th day of November 2019 in said county, it appears that Catherine F. Fike was duly elected to the office of School Director at Large for a term of 4 years in Southmoreland in the county aforesaid. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Westmoreland, Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Election of said county, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the municipal election held on the 5th day of November 2019 in said county, it appears that Jason Polakowski was duly elected to the office of School Director at Large for a term of 4 years in Southmoreland in the county aforesaid. All these were signed by the County Board of Elections. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Westmoreland, Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned members of the County Board of Election of said county, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the municipal election held on the 5th day of November 2019 in said county, it appears that Kristen Miller Smith was duly elected to the office of School Director at Large for a term of 4 years in Southmoreland in the county aforesaid. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Westmoreland, Certificate of Election. We, the undersigned, members of the County Board of Election of said county, hereby certify that after tabulating the votes cast at the municipal election held on the 5th day of November 2019, in said county, it appears that Michelle L. Williams was duly elected to the office of School Director at Large for a term of 4 years in Southmoreland in the county aforesaid. Congratulations to all the
Thank you.
board members.
Reading list of all newly elected and newly re-elected school board members. Directors.
James Feistel, re-elected. Catherine Fike, newly elected. Jason Polakowski, re-elected. Kristen Smith, newly elected. Michelle Williams, newly elected.
Oath of office administered by School Board Secretary Margaret Carson.
If the new members, the elected and re-elected, come up front, please. Yeah, everybody can come up front. Catherine F. Fike, if you could raise your right hand, please. Board of School Directors of the Southmoreland School District, oath of office of Southmoreland School Director. I, Catherine Fike, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and Constitution of this Commonwealth, and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Board of School Directors of the Southmoreland School District, oath of office of School Director. I, Kristen Miller Smith, raise your right hand, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth, and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Michelle Williams, raise your right hand. Board of School Directors of the Southmoreland School District, oath of office of School Director. I, Michelle L. Williams, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and Constitution of the Commonwealth, and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Mr. James W. Beistel Jr. was also re-elected. He is not present this evening. Mr. Polakowski, if you raise your right hand, Board of School Director, Southmoreland School District, oath of office as Public Director. I, Jason Polakowski,
I, Jason Polakowski,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations, I am pleased to announce that these individuals are now Southmoreland School Board Directors.
Peggy, have each one of them sign the oath also.
Michelle?
election of president for a term of 1 year.
Temporary chairperson calls for the nomination of the office of president for 1 year. Nomination of board president.
I'd like to nominate Gail Rhodes.
I would like to nominate Heather Smith.
Temporary chairperson calls for nomination of the office of president for 1 year. Temporary chairperson calls for nomination of the office of president for 1 year term. Motion to close the nominations for the appointment of president.
Make that motion to close.
Second?
Second.
Nomination for office of president are closed. Voice vote to close nominations for president. Voice vote unanimous.
Yes.
Mr. Carson votes for.
Gail Rhodes.
Dr. Pike votes for.
Heather Smith.
Mr. Polakowski votes for.
Gail Rhodes.
Mrs. Rhodes votes for.
Gail Rhodes.
Heather Smith votes for.
Gail Rhodes.
Kristen Smith votes for.
Gail Rhodes.
Mrs. Williams votes for.
Gail Rhodes.
New president, Southmoreland School Board, Mrs. Gail Rhodes. I'll take your gavel. Congratulations. I'll get it. You good?
I'd like to see that there. Thank you.
What side you right on?
Congratulations, I think.
Election of vice president for a term of 1 year.
Nomination.
Nominations for board vice president.
Nominate Jason Polakowski.
Nomination, president calls for nomination for the office of vice president for a term of 1 year. President calls for nomination for the office of vice president for a term of 1 year. Motion to close the nomination for the appointment of vice president. Motion?
Make a motion.
Second? Someone make a second? Heather? Okay. Nomination for the office of vice president is closed. Voice vote to close the nomination for vice president.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nomination for the secretaries to cast a unanimous ballot for Mr. Jason Polakowski as board vice president for a period of 1 year.
Need a motion?
Make a motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Voice vote?
Say aye.
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 Opposed?
Unanimous, Mr. Jason Polakowski, Vice President of the Southmoreland School District, School Board.
Election of Board Treasurer for a term of 1 year.
Actually, for the term ending June 30th, 2020.
Okay. For the term
It's
ending.
finishing the term of 1 year.
Finishing the term of 1 year?
Yeah, that Mr. Fry had held.
Oh, okay, that's correct.
Mr. Fry was the treasurer. But since he resigned, we have to
Pardon?
finish out his term. Treasurer terms are one fiscal
For the
year.
balance
July
of the
For
through
the
term.
balance of Mr. Fry's
Need a-
term.
Of 1 year,
bridge.
which ends June 30th,
June
2020.
June 30th. In May, according to
So
the school
board
code,
members
you
have all
elect
filed their
another
financial
treasurer
statements.
or
If you're
re-elect
going to accept or
treasurer for a
make
one-year term.
nominations for an outsider who has not filed a statement of financial interest, then there'd have to be a 10-day waiting period.
I did not hear a word you said. Could you please use your microphone?
If there's going to be a nomination tonight for filling the vacancy in the office of treasurer for the balance of the term from now until June 30th, 2020, members, because you have all filed your statements of financial interest, could qualify for that position. If you're going to nominate someone who is not a member and obviously hasn't filed a statement of financial interest, then that would require a waiting period so that they would file, and 10 days would elapse before the board could vote on them.
Is it permissible to discuss this item now?
Yes, I mean, the president's up to it.
In the past, Mr. Marnell, you've said you don't want to be the board president or the treasurer. Is that correct?
That was correct.
Okay. Mr. Masher gave us these books, and I read it, of course, from cover to cover. And this is what it says, that Section 439 of the School Code says that the treasurer shall receive all state appropriations, local taxes, and other funds, make payments on orders prepared and signed by the board secretary, and pay district bills. Other duties include depositing funds every month and furnishing the board with a monthly report of those deposits, investing monies of the school district as authorized by the board consistent with the restrictions in the school code, settling accounts annually with the school board, and other actions as directed by the board. At the end of the treasurer's term, he or she shall turn over monies and records that the treasurer has maintained to his or her successor. My question is, who has been doing these responsibilities? For example, did Mr. Fry do these things? Or whoever?
This office has always done the duties of board treasurer.
Then why are you not the treasurer, Jim? I don't understand it.
Well, just like at Ligonier Valley School District, I was never the treasurer. We always had a sitting board member be the treasurer, just like you have a sitting board member as president, vice president. We even had a sitting board member as board secretary. But we in the office always did the work for them. So,
That's not what this says. I'm just going by what the Section 439 of the school code says, that the treasurer shall. And it would seem to me that the person who's already doing all of these is in fact the de facto board treasurer and should be the treasurer based on who's assuming these responsibilities. Is there any member on the board who's prepared to do this stuff?
I think it would be foolish to be the treasurer in name only, if that's what
That's what I'm getting at, Christie.
if
the
that's
law-
what the policy says, I think it's
No,
foolish
this
to
is
be
the-
treasurer in name only.
School law, yeah. This is Section 439 of the school code. And that's a very heavy responsibility. And I don't think it's something that should be made capriciously. And I can't imagine that anybody here, maybe you're smarter than I am, I'm sure you are, but I could never do this. I could never do what's Mr. Petonic, you're familiar with that?
Yes, and obviously, that section of the school code was passed in 1949. And in 1949, there were thousands of very small school districts in this state because that was before all of the jointures and consolidations. It was also before different additional provisions of the school code were passed, most notably the one providing for the specific statutory position of a business administrator or a business manager. And consequently, it's there, it's in the school code says to do it, that's why we do it.
And
Now,
this is still
insofar as who should fill that office, obviously, you know, as the ability to actually perform those duties, if you're not going to hire a bank to do it, and most banks don't want to get involved with small school districts, then the practicality of it is that the business office prepares the information and the treasurer should review it and sign off on it, or if they have an objection, then deal with it.
This school code is still in effect.
It's still in effect. There's lots of sections in the school code that are like this. When have we last celebrated Arbor Day?
But a treasurer who doesn't do this would still be signing things, right? They're going to sign their name to this stuff?
Well, the state is not going to send them a check.
The state doesn't what?
The state is not going to send the individual treasurer a check. It's going to get wired into the
Well, no, I know that.
school district.
But it's not just that. There's 20 things listed here.
There are other things, yes.
And the other thing is, you're saying this is only till June 30th. Well, that's 6 months from now, we'll be facing the same problem, right?
Actually, you're going to have it again in
And
May,
I
because
think we
that's
need-
when the
I
election
think we need to resolve this.
The election is in May, for then the period after July 1st to be.
But I think the person who's actually doing these things should be the treasurer. And in fact, up until recently, that is the way it was at Southmoreland. The person who was doing this, wasn't Bill Porter always treasurer, wasn't he? Peggy, wasn't he? Yeah. I mean, I'm not being unkind. I'm just saying, I think this is a serious matter. It's going to come up again in a couple of months, in 6 months. And I think we should resolve it in a very responsible way. Until this is changed, it says you can just have a perfunctory signature. I know I would not sign my name to somebody else's work. That's my problem. I mean, I'm not going to be the treasurer, but, you know, I would not be willing to do this because this is a pretty heavy list of responsibilities.
Was the treasurer before Mr. Claro, was he doing those things?
Porter.
I think Mr. Claro was the last one.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ken Claro. You did that for a while.
Bob Claro, yeah.
Oh, Calero. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
Calero,
thought you
sorry.
said
No, not
Dan
Mr.
Clara.
Clara.
Oh,
Mr.
Bob
Calero.
Calero. Yeah, did Bob do all that stuff? I mean, do you folks understand where I'm coming from? I think it's serious.
Mr. Marnell, you still don't want to?
I'm employed as a business manager. When we sat down and negotiated a new contract back in the spring, June of 2016, I brought this matter up, changing my title from business manager to school business administrator, because Section 1089 mentions a business administrator. I was hired as a business manager. There is a distinction. Now, I hope to resolve that distinction and to be appropriately remunerated for the position. But they,
Wanted more
the
money.
negotiating committee at that time did not agree with that. Also, there is a matter of writing a contract, because the school board every year in May has the right to elect or re-elect a treasurer for a one-year term. Now, outstanding of my concern is what happens if the school board did not wish me to continue as board treasurer? Am I then out of a position effective July 1st of that year? So those are the kinds of matters that have to be bridged to resolve it. Now, lots of districts have a sitting member as a treasurer. Like I said, I served at Ligonier Valley for 23 years, and still to this day, they have a board member as treasurer. it might still be Herb Handlinger, I don't know, he's been treasurer for a long time. Prior to me becoming board secretary in the spring of, effective July 1st of 1993, we had a sitting board member, Dr. Mary Kinney, as the board secretary. But we in the business office always did the work for the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. They signed off on the work. For example, one of the big projects that we do every year is an annual budget and an annual financial report, and the board president is asked to sign those documents. Even though the board president doesn't do that work, they sign it because they have the official executive power. And it's similar with being a board treasurer. If there's any financial instruments, for example, we're going to be doing a debt refinancing possibly, they would ask for the board treasurer's signature. Now, that's also a good item of internal control. For example, as a business manager, an employee does not have the ability to go and open up bank accounts. They would give you a resolution that would have to be signed by the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. It's a good internal control that those jobs be held by your school board. It's just my personal. It was never an issue at Ligonier Valley. The business office always did the work of the treasurer. We did the work of the secretary. And of course, we did the work for the president other than conduct the meetings. So,
Mr. Marnell.
I think it's a matter of semantics myself, but the one overarching concern is what happens if at the end of 1 year you don't want to retain that individual as a treasurer? Is that individual then out of a position? Would I be out of a position? So you'd have to write a contract that would separate being a business manager or business administrator from being the board treasurer, so that if at the end of any particular 1 year period, maybe a board member wants to have that status of being treasurer, then it would be of no consequence to me that I lost that position. The only consequence would be is if you wanted to remunerate me, for example, a supplemental to being treasurer. But
So wait a minute, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. In my opinion, you already have a separate contract for your actual physical employment here.
yes.
And what you're saying is you're unwilling to take this position without having some type of supplemental pay that is also going into your pension. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that's what you're saying.
Or at least a separate contract, that if you no longer want me to be treasurer, of course,
But I think you already have a separate contract.
as a business manager.
Correct.
Michelle,
And
I
that
have
would be separate from this
But it does
position.
not include treasurer.
Michelle, I have a question relevant to what you're saying. I haven't looked at your contract recently, Mr. Marnell, but is at the end, does it say, when your list of duties, doesn't it say at the end, and other duties as required by the board? Isn't there a statement at the end of your contract? Or did you have that taken out? I thought it said at the very end, where it lists your responsibilities, or what would you call it, a job description. It says, or other duties as assigned by the board.
The legal issue with that is, which I previously gave an opinion on, this is a separate elective office. As such, you cannot force someone in Pennsylvania or the United States to accept an elected position.
As an employee in the business office, it says.
I don't necessarily agree with Mr. Marnell that the positions have to be combined into one contract. There's a contract that's in existence for his current position. If he wished to negotiate with you over whether or not to be elected and be compensated for that, you could do that. If you negotiated and he agreed not to be compensated, you could do that. But that would still require the filing, well, in this case, you already have a financial statement on record, but
So that's
filing-
the loophole. That's the loophole, that it's an elected position, and that's how you get around that.
That's it.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah, my last
Marnell
item-
is willing, we can
My
just
last
move on.
item says number 26,
We have to-
perform such other duties as assigned by the superintendent.
Yeah.
Mr. Buffoni, just for clarity, Mr. Marnell currently has a contract as the district business manager.
Right.
If if he were to become board treasurer, that would not be linked. If he were to lose that position or someone else were to take that position of board treasurer, that would not be dependent. Mr. Marnell's continuation of this contract would not be contingent upon him losing that board treasurer position. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Because that's a separate and distinct contract as district business manager.
That's correct. I think the problem arises whenever people initially have contracts that are for for business manager, and assuming that they are also going to be the treasurer, and you sort of put them all together, and then the problem becomes, well, how do you break it apart if you don't have a separate election and a separate, it has to be a separate election, what the remuneration is for each. Because if it's intended that there be separate remunerations, then for the treasurer you have to state what it is. Historically, all of our treasurers have served without compensation.
Mr. Marnell, are you willing to do this pro bono? Is it the term they use, pro bono?
I could do it pro bono, sure. But I would need assurances.
Can I nominate you then as treasurer?
What I don't understand, maybe I don't understand the responsibility of treasurer.
Do you have a
So,
statement of financial
is
interest
the
on
treasurer
record?
for
Do you have a statement of financial interest on
to
record?
check his work to make sure it's accurate?
He has to do it according to this law, Jim. That's the
mean,
only thing I know.
Why would we want him, why would anybody want to grade their own work? Or, like,
That's not really what
isn't that what
the board treasurer is actually supposed to, technically, according to that law, if I'm correct, is supposed to be doing the work. That's what the board treasurer is supposed to do.
doing
So-
that work that,
Exactly.
Interestingly, it's the 70th anniversary of the school code, by the way, 1949.
I knew I was going to get a history lesson.
Is there any extra authority or powers granted to the treasurer that a business manager doesn't normally have?
I can't tell. It's that section 439. And this book is a synopsis. It's not the full school code. This is the book that you gave us. This is from the PSBA. And it specifically said, it lists all the,
Does the board treasurer have sort of like veto power over certain financial matters? If I should disagree with a proposed spending?
Should we look into it?
no, that doesn't seem to be included. Budget preparation, things like that do not appear to be in this. They give the whole list of everything that the school board secretary has to do, too. They just go through and list all these functions because it says, you have to elect somebody. But no, it does not say anything about the budget or anything like that under the treasurer thing
That was one of the
in this paper.
differences of opinion that Mr. Claro had. He wanted to be intimately involved in doing the budgeting, certain matters like that,
Mhm.
which didn't matter to me. I mean, I worked with Bob, and we shared a lot of emails, and we met privately and tried to assuage whatever concerns that he had.
I think there would be a lot of crossover between budget and treasurer.
Well, the
But,
position of treasurer, as Mr. Petonic alluded to, similar to a lot of small organizations. I used to be a treasurer of the Greensburg Volunteer Fire Museum in Greensburg. The treasurer of those types of organizations, small charities, 501(c)s, etc., is by de facto the finance officer of the group and also a voting member of the group. You would sit there when the board would meet, and of course the treasurer had a vote. And we had dual signatures, treasurer signed as well as the president of the group signed. So you had more authority than normally, which is written in a code. Written in a code is what the day-to-day functions of the business office handles. Of course, I've been doing this in my 31st year, so handling those responsibilities over the years.
Is there another section of the school code that describes what the business manager will do with the same power of law that this does?
Actually, the business manager crossover, also if you read board secretary, you'll see some of what the old school code says about board secretary, we actually do in the business office also.
Well, I think what we need to do is, instead of keep going around and around here, I think what we need to do is to set up a committee, if Mr. Marnell would be willing.
If you wanted me to fill the rest of Mr. Fry's term pro bono until we can meet, maybe you'd be satisfied with it, and come May, you could either reappoint me, or maybe the school board would want to take that position back.
I move what he just said.
If he'd be willing, that would be,
Pro bono always sounds good.
yes.
I would do that for you.
Is there a motion on the floor then for that?
To appoint Mr. Marnell until June 30th, and he agrees
That's a nomination.
to fulfill these obligations on a pro bono basis.
Is that nominated?
Yes.
Just until June.
Dr.
I have a question for Dave. Back to Jim's point, this veto power. Is there veto power now for Mr. Conner? If the board decides on something, and it's the board treasurer to sign it, or send it to Harrisburg, he doesn't approve of it?
Could a treasurer refuse to do something, is basically, or refuse to agree to something?
Yes. Will that stop whatever we decide?
I have to be very careful about that. I looked at that once, but it's been already several months ago. There's both, I think there's a risk involved with that. Obviously, if it was something that was clearly wrong, the treasurer could do that. However, I think the reverse of that also applies, that if it's not wrong and the treasurer is obstructing something, that can also have bad consequences. So, although there is the potential for oversight, it cannot be become
It's an elected position.
become a.
You can do what you feel is right or wrong. So, you know.
I use the word obstructionism, to do something, to abuse discretion, to not have a basis in law. That would certainly be a big problem if a treasurer were to do that.
But if you felt an expenditure was not wrong per se because it violates law or it's obstructionism, but if you felt that an expenditure was irresponsible to proceed with. You know, for example, I read a list of items that were expended over the past 4+ years that bled 50% of our cash. Now, as an employee, it's my job to carry out orders, and I try to control what I say. As board treasurer, then, would I have more of a voice at the table? I couldn't stop it, but I would have a voice to say, I don't agree with this particular method of expenditures. Maybe that's why Mr. Porter was so outspoken, because he was treasurer for all those years, so he felt he had the...
I think it has to be a matter of illegality, not just that you strongly disagree with it.
I mean,
to actually prevent it from happening.
I was indirectly blamed.
Now, if you're talking about negotiating power, you're really getting away from law and into politics with a small p.
Indirectly, I was blamed during the past 12 months during the 2 tough budgets we did. It was my fault that we spent down fund balances. Well, it's not my fault, but I think we all have a contributory negligence, so to speak, as to what happened. But I didn't have a voice, I didn't have a vote to stop items of expenditure that I didn't agree with. That perhaps a different course should have been taken, or perhaps an expenditure shouldn't have been done. But I carry out orders as an employee, whether I agree with them or not.
Does that, Mr. Petonic, does that give him exactly what he's saying? Does that give him a larger voice at the table? A voice at the table because he's an actual elected to that position?
It's a non-voting position, because I'm
Right.
not elected from the citizens.
Again, I view that more as a matter of, not of law, but of practice and quite frankly, just how much the person wants to assert themselves. It's not an automatic veto of any sort.
Mr. Marnell, I thought that part of your responsibilities was to act as an advisor to the board and to tell us about financial matters that would affect what we're doing, that you would be our consultant, that you would be our advisor, and express your feelings when there are things that you...
Broadening the scope of what was written in my duties and responsibilities.
Okay,
If you read it, again, I have it with me.
okay, you don't have that
Wait,
role.
Brandon, I'm more of an advisor to the superintendent of schools.
Maybe that's what I was thinking
And
of
of course,
then.
I support the position, whatever the position is that the administration takes, and that's my job. For example, let me see. Item number
All
one.
right, I think we're getting off here.
Item number one says, assist the superintendent and/or the board in the development of the annual budget. Assist the principals and department heads prepare and review data on a regular basis and to keep the superintendent updated. So if you ask me, and you absolve me of any blame for what I have to say, if I speak frankly about an expenditure item that perhaps I don't think should be made, but I would give you my opinion on it, then you would say, okay, Mr. Marno, we appreciate your opinion, but...
Personally, I would appreciate that.
All right, if
That
it's all-
fits more my personality type than not saying something.
I call for a motion to close the nominations for the appointment of the treasurer,
Election.
for the election of the treasurer. Need a motion to close. Mr. Smith, second.
I'll second. Oh.
Okay, nominations for the office of the treasurer are closed. We need a voice vote to close the nominations for treasurer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Need a motion to cast an unanimous ballot
Now I need a motion to cast the unanimous ballot.
by the secretary in favor of Mr. Marnell as treasurer.
In favor of Mr. Marnell as treasurer.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Williams? Ready for roll call?
It can be a voice vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you.
You also have to decide on an amount of bond,
Oh,
if you want to start with that immediately.
I do carry a surety bond of $25,000. If you think that's sufficient, no need to add to it, but if you think you need more of a bond, then we would contact Mr.
Mr. DeFurio?
DeFurio Mongel Agency. I almost called him DeFazy, that's a pit coach.
What's the normal,
Yeah, what's the
what's the
normal?
normal practice here, Mr. Petroni?
It's been rather small. I don't remember if it's been 100,000 or 25,000. I mean, it's not like millions, because that's really expensive.
What did Mr. Fry have?
25.
That's what I thought, 25.
I was going to ask that, too.
Yeah, I carried a surety bond because we actually handle
Cash.
work.
Okay, call for a motion for a bond in the amount of $25,000 to be paid by the school district.
I call for a motion to, the $25,000 bond for Mr. Marnell, paid by the school
School
district.
district.
He already has.
For him to serve as treasurer.
He already
You already
has.
have it?
He already has it, doesn't he?
Or we need something separate.
Is that,
I would make it separate.
It's a separate, it's supposed
He
to be
needs
separate.
another one. He needs
Yeah.
another
All
one.
right, I need
It
a
would be
motion.
titled treasurer bond.
I would make the motion that we authorize that bond at $25,000 for...
Mike, second.
Second.
Need a roll call.
Need a roll call on that, Peggy.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 8 and 1 absent, 1 absent. Sorry, so it would be 7.
Legislative Chairman, Chairperson?
We allowed to discuss this now, before the motion is made?
It's usually after the motion, right?
Motion first.
Well, it's an election,
always-
it's not a motion, it's an
Oh, okay.
election.
We can discuss it. It
It's
says,
up to the president. Do you want discussion on it?
I don't know if it's
it
necessary.
says in the agenda here, it is necessary to appoint a representative from the Southmoreland School Board to represent the school district in PSBA's legislative action program at county-level meetings.
Excuse me. Isn't that what the superintendent's supposed to be doing, reading that?
Right. This is a discussion I want to have, that you have to attend these meetings. My question was, who's been doing that? That's my question. Who's been doing that? You go to the meetings? Then you're the legislative representative.
The IU keeps us pretty well informed with all kind of legislative actions.
Prompt the board to dismiss suggested items on the legislative platform. Okay, it's,
So usually this person attends the annual PSBA meeting and.
That's usually the liaison, Jim.
Oh, it's the
Yeah, that's
liaison.
the liaison.
I got.
these are monthly
Yeah.
meetings, county-level meetings.
Sorry, that's the next PSBA meeting.
All right. So we need nominations for the appointment of legislative
Who's
chairperson.
been doing that? Okay.
Is this something that a board member should do, or is Mr. Masha continuing to do this?
It should be a board member.
A board member, okay.
I will assist the board member. I get a lot of information that I filter.
And is this a monthly meeting they have to go to?
It's bi-monthly, or every other month, I'm sorry.
And where is it?
The IU in Greensburg, like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
In the morning?
Really?
Better than 7 at night.
Would have to be someone who doesn't work then, or work afternoon. Who's willing to do it?
Need nominations? Somebody nominate somebody.
Joe, are you still interested in doing it again, or do you want?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, what do we do when nobody nominates?
Well, I think you pass on it and bring it up again at the next
Okay, we
meeting.
can do that. We can do that.
Have we called for it 3 times? I think I
I
counted
think I
2.
counted 2. All right, and we need nominations for the legislative chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Krista Smith.
Any other nominations? Need a motion to close the nominations for the appointment of the legislative chairperson,
I'll make a motion to close the nominations.
and I need a second.
Second.
Voice vote.
Need a voice vote for that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Call for a motion for the secretary to, instruct the secretary to cast a unanimous ballot for
Calling,
Mrs. Christie Smith.
For the secretary to call for a voice vote, unanimous voice vote, cast for Mrs. Smith as his legislative chairperson. All in, oh, she has
Better use her first name.
to, Christie Smith.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any-
Opposed? Legislative chairperson,
Mrs. Smith, I just sent you some information through the email. And I will touch base with you.
Okay.
On that.
Thanks.
Election of PSBA liaison.
The board is asked to appoint a representative to the PSBA Regional Cabinet. This person is the liaison between the board and the PSBA.
What is their regional cabinet? What's a regional cabinet?
State's divided up into regions, and each region has a group of representatives in that cabinet.
That's what Sam Axipter did when he was Western Pennsylvania. Would that be Western Pennsylvania? Southwestern Pennsylvania. That was a biggie. That's a biggie. He represented 33 schools, I think. So that's what that is, okay.
I'm not sure how many's in our region. She might be correct, I don't know.
Well, this isn't to represent 33 schools, this is just to represent us.
It's to the
Right.
regional cabinet. This is to the regional cabinet. They're going to represent to the regional cabinet. And according to Gail, she's saying that that cabinet consists of these divisions in the state. I think he was called a regional director or something like that, and I don't know if that's what that is or not. I don't know.
Gail.
I nominate Gail Rhodes.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Call for, are there any other
Is
nominations?
there any other nominations for that position? Did you do it again?
One more time.
Any other nominations for that position?
Looking for a motion to close nominations.
A motion to close nominations, please.
I'll make a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Paul Kowski, Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Voice vote?
Have a voice vote, please. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it.
Ask for a motion to instruct the secretary to cast a unanimous ballot in favor of Mrs. Rhodes for legislative,
No,
I'm sorry,
liaison. Instruct, okay.
legislative chairperson.
We
I
need
make
the,
that motion. I make that motion.
You make the motion?
Second.
Williams?
All in favor? Voice
All in
vote.
favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay with that?
Yes.
We're going to move on. Board meeting calendar.
It is recommended that the monthly planning sessions of the Southmoreland Board of Education and the monthly regular business sessions of the Southmoreland Board of Education be held each month during 2020 as per the attached schedule, and it is attached to this section, at 7 p.m. in the Southmoreland Middle School, 200 Scotty Way, Scottsdale, PA, and that the secretary is authorized and directed to give public notice, including advertising the schedule of public meetings not less than 3 days before the first meeting. And the person making that motion will need to specify January 2nd or January 9th, June 2nd or June 11th.
Are those just examples? Is that what?
No,
No,
if
these are
you,
actual meetings.
if you look on,
Um,
there are two sections where you have to pick. If you go to the actual calendar itself,
it's when the school year changes. For June. Mhm.
on
In the far
January,
right-hand column.
yeah, on January 2nd or 9th, there's a
Yeah.
preliminary budget or opt-out. And then down on the June 4th or 11th, there'd be material changes.
Okay, it's a June 2nd there. I don't care about that, okay. Is there a meeting on January 23rd?
You would be approving that with this calendar. at least,
If so needed.
if so needed, yeah.
If so needed.
if so needed.
So I make a motion that we adopt this calendar using January 9th and June 11th. That keeps it with meetings that are already there.
The distinction will be that going with the 9th means that your preliminary budget voting meeting, if you choose to go forward with that, is, I believe, a Tuesday, the 23rd. So you end up with a different meeting night for that.
Either way, we'd have two meetings,
You have the same number of meetings, it's the day of the week that,
right? And school's closed on January 2nd still, correct?
Yes.
They go back on.
So we just voted
You
on
can
those
meet
on the 23rd.
even
I
when the
know we
school's
can,
closed.
but-
As you are tonight.
As today.
Yes.
I just wanted to be clear about that, I'm not
Okay.
debating with you.
Either way, we would be looking at 3 meetings for the month, one being a Tuesday.
That would be 3.
That was a motion, I do believe.
Yeah. Okay, we need a second on that? On that
And
motion?
that's included in that, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
On the 23rd? Yeah. That's what they're saying. Okay.
Paul Costi?
Why is he saying Tuesday?
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Pike? Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes?
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy.
Newspaper of general circulation.
The board is asked to designate the Daily Courier, whose office is located at 127-129 Apple Street, Connellsville, PA, as the daily newspaper of general circulation in which district legal advertisements will be placed in accordance with Section 10 of the Public School Code and School District Policy Guide Number 5.
Need a motion?
Motion.
Carson, second?
Second?
Discussion?
After we get the second.
Oh, I thought you had one.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
Second.
did you? Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
That's right.
All right. Williams, second. Now discussion.
My concern is the vast majority of our school district is located in Westmoreland County. We have a smaller portion of our district in Fayette, but yet the paper that we're using is in Fayette County and not in Westmoreland County. Are there no options for us to use a newspaper of general circulation in Westmoreland County as opposed to Fayette because of the location of our school district?
From my understanding, the Daily Courier is still delivered, where you have the Tribune that's not delivered. And I know a lot of people that do not get the Tribune because it's not delivered. So, in that vein, I believe the Courier would reach more households than what the Tribune would.
See, I don't know anybody who gets the Connellsville Courier. I don't know anybody.
You don't know anybody who gets the Connellsville Courier?
Right.
Well, I could name you how many people. There's lots of people I know get the paper.
My concern, Gail, is Westmoreland County. Our school district's in Westmoreland County. I think it's
And
fair.
also part of it's in Fayette.
There is a small part of it there, yes. Yes.
Well, we haven't had a problem with advertising in the Daily Courier. I don't foresee a problem. You know, to me, it doesn't matter where they're at.
It's a cost factor, too.
And then also the cost factor.
It does cost a lot of
A
money
lot.
to advertise.
You're talking about the Trib?
Mm-hmm.
There's no Scottsdale paper anymore?
The Independent.
It's not daily.
Is there one?
Not
I mean,
daily,
and
Once a week.
Mount Pleasant has one. I see
once
it.
a week.
I see it. It's just once a week.
Correct.
Maybe that's why our meetings are so bad, so poorly attended. We're not advertising in the
This
paper.
is poorly attended because people don't have concern. That's why. My opinion.
Advertising the Post-Gazette, I don't think we get more people here.
No.
It's no longer daily either on the
Sawtell paper on Thursday.
Yeah, that would be it.
It would probably be cheaper, right?
Yeah, but it would be
After the
Thursday.
fact.
Are there requirements, like how many days you have to run these things, Peggy?
There are requirements on how soon you have to get them in. There's usually a 2-day, 3-day turnaround. You have to have it to them before. And you basically, well, I try to get any type of special they're running, which usually is maybe 3 days out of the week, and try to hit on a Saturday or Sunday.
So that's the only paper left, besides the
Yeah.
Trib.
Yeah. And the Trib is extremely expensive. And the Daily Courier has been our school newspaper for years and years.
Herald Standard.
Herald Standard in Uniontown, yeah.
I still have a paper boy.
Yeah, Tribune does stuff.
I've seen the Daily Courier at the library, and it has a lot of Uniontown, Fayette County, Connellsville stuff in it. I didn't see much about Westmoreland in it, which would make sense to them.
No, it does. It has a lot of Westmoreland.
Yeah, it does.
Having read it and putting stuff in it, it has a ton of Westmoreland.
I only read
It's
it at the
sufficient.
library, yeah. Mhm.
Are we stating
All right,
that,
any other discussion?
are we stating that we will only use the Daily Courier for advertising? Because till to date, we still use the Tribune Review for advertisements for job positions.
Now, this is for your advertising your meeting.
District legal
This
advertising.
is just legal
Yeah.
advertisements.
Which district legal advertisement will be placed.
I've seen them in the Trib.
But the calendar will go into the Tribune Review just one time. It will go into the Trib and it will go into the Courier, the calendar that you approved.
Mhm.
All right, we need a roll call, please?
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 1 absent, 1 vacancy.
Superintendent's information.
I have included a potential vacancy applications on the executive content under my information. And I would also like to thank Belinda Lewandowski and Mrs. Capone for the wonderful refreshments they had before this meeting. So thank you very much to both of those.
Yes, I second that.
That is all I have.
Solicitor's information?
With board's permission, the one thing I had to report came up after the close of business on the short school day for Wednesday. And so I generated a report to you by sending it to superintendent to get into an email to you today, and then I also tried to send out emails today. May I proceed?
Sure. Yeah.
This is concerning Roughdale School property late in the afternoon of November 27, 2019. And after the schools were closed, I received a telephone call from Attorney Aaron Bylon, solicitor for East Huntington Township. The supervisors have received their reports and appraisal of the Southmoreland School District property known as the Roughdale School property. They're requesting a meeting with the Committee of Board of Directors, members, solicitor, superintendent, and such other school officials as the school district chooses. The purpose is to discuss terms for East Huntington Township acquiring all of that property, including the former school building and ball fields. Mr. Bylon stated that they would like to meet as soon as possible. Today, Monday, I discussed with him some potential meeting dates and times in trying to move this along. So my suggestion or recommendation is that the newly elected president appoint a committee including 3 board members, and obtain common available times, and then pick a time. The times suggested, which were, I know, available for them, were Friday, December 6th, with a starting time between 9 a.m. and 1:30 p.m., or Monday, December 9, or Tuesday, December 10, or Wednesday, December 11, between 9 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. for starting times. The objective would be to be done by 3 p.m. As a last choice, or at least in this round of obtaining dates, and I was trying to keep, this relatively in the near future, there would be a possibility for an evening meeting, but that would require going back to the supervisors for all of them to indicate whether they would be available. Mr. Bylon, I think, was working through the people that he could get in touch with by phone. And those suggestions were either Tuesday the 10th, because we have a meeting on Monday, or Wednesday the 11th. Now, I did put down 6:30 p.m. Technically, it could be earlier or later. What that was aiming at was to try to get it after what most people have as a dinner hour. I can't guarantee that either one of those dates will be okay with the supervisors, though, and that's why I listed it last. But if there are no other choices and you want to propose one of those nights at a different time than 6:30, you can do that. I was trying to pick a time that I knew at least their solicitor and some of their people were available. That's really all. I have the report on that at this point.
I'm just vocalizing that Mr. Beistel he has been a major part of this process, and I do believe that he would like to continue being a part of that. I'm speaking in his absence, but I'm fairly certain that he would want to see this through.
All right, this is what I'm proposing then, to appoint the committee. Definitely do that tonight, because I think we want to continue to move on with this. I would say that Mr. Beistel would be one member, Mr. Carson, and myself. And then we'll see what days. I was thinking maybe like Friday, if we would be able to meet with them, then we would have something maybe to report back on the 9th.
All right.
Yes. What's your schedule look like?
Tom?
Pardon me?
Tom?
According to this, it sounds like with the starting time between 9 a.m. and 1:30 p.m.
Nine.
Want to do 9 a.m.? Okay.
You'll reach out to him, Mr. Bylon?
Where are we meeting, Abigail?
Pardon me?
Where are we going to meet?
Oh, where did they say? Did they want to meet at the township?
I believe that that was the preference, because they would be out on the roads for a while and come in.
Okay.
You should announce who else you want to be present. Do you want me and the superintendent?
Yes.
And who else? Is that?
Would that be satisfactory?
It's up to you.
Yourself?
Yes.
Is there anybody else you want from your group?
I was
Mr.
going to
Krofcheck?
probably talk to Mr. Krofcheck about attending also.
Okay. Mr. Krofcheck? Mr. Masha? Mr. Petoni?
Now, looking at the weather for the week, just to give everyone heads up, if weather is inclement, they're gonna be out working on the road, so we would have to obviously pay attention to that.
Correct.
That was indicated to me, that if they had to be out on the roads, we might be getting a phone call to cancel a meeting.
Well, yes. We could
That time of
reschedule.
year.
Correct.
Thank you.
So we still in the place yet?
Pardon me?
We're gonna
Township
assume it's the
building.
township.
Dave, you're supplying breakfast, did I hear that?
I thought I heard
Really
that too.
crummy coffee.
Yeah, well,
All right. You ready?
I have a question about this meeting, and this is a much broader question. I was always under the impression, and maybe I'm wrong, that any school board member has the right to attend any meeting that is held. Is that correct? And I know the rules, I know the
It's
rules.
not a public meeting.
No.
It's a committee appointed to undertake discussions and potentially negotiations.
So it's not true
It's
that...
not a public meeting.
It's not a public meeting.
But it's not true that any school board member can attend any meeting. They have nothing to say. I mean, I know the rules.
This is a meeting. Okay, this is an advertised meeting.
I can remember during negotiations, other school board members attended, and that wasn't a meeting.
Well, that's
That was-
with, whatever rules you set up for that.
What?
I deliberately would not want a quorum present for fear of violating the Sunshine Law and potentially entering into something that was a binding commitment without having brought it to the full board in public.
See, I was
So
told
normally you
that-
don't have a negotiating meeting or that kind of a meeting with a quorum.
But I've always been told that you don't have any input. There's no participation by anybody other than the committee. Nothing. You don't say a word. And I mean, that's what has happened in the past. That if a person is interested in something, they have the right to attend the meeting, but they can't speak in any
Not
way,
any
shape, or
different
form.
than a negotiation meeting.
This is not a, this
This
is,
is like a negotiation.
I don't know how else to explain it other than that.
So that would only apply to negotiations then, that everybody could attend. Anybody can attend and not participate.
Well, I really didn't come prepared to speak on that subject tonight, so I don't want to speak out of turn on that.
Could you tell me at some later date if that is in effect or not? Because I was told that every school board member has the equal right to attend everything, every board function. It's a board function.
That's the distinction I'm making. This is not a board voting meeting.
Not a voting meeting, it's a board function, just
Do you
a
want to
function.
go, do you want to be part of this committee? Or go to the meeting?
I've been involved in this, Christie, and I'm just
Okay.
interested in the outcome of it, that's all. I've been attending
Well,
the
the committee will
supervisors'
meet.
meetings and so
We'll
forth.
meet with the supervisors, and we'll bring the information back on the 9th, where we can have further discussion on what we bring back. So, if there's not anybody else with the comments, let's move on. Refinancing saving update.
Amended and restated resolutions to use method of saving and method of refinancing for continuing pursuit of general obligation bonds, refunding Series 2012 and Series 2013.
I think Jim was going to. You wish to elaborate?
On the, right before the holiday on the 26th, Public Financial Management, Financial Advisors sent a report that you have attached. So if we open up that report. They do not include an executive summary, but the some substance of what they're recommending is on page 3. Now, they're recommending, as was discussed at the last meeting, the column 1, there is a typo on their part. They have 2013 refunding. That should read 2012 refunding. And in the last meeting, you reviewed and approved the proposal from the BB&T Bank. The rates are fixed. And then in column 2, they're recommending a refunding of a majority of the 2013 bond issue. They're excluding a small piece, $235,000. So they are proposing that they refinance with Webster Bank $8,935,000 of outstanding bonds and leaving $235,000, which is principal payment that is due in April of 2020, $115,000, and then in the following April of 2021, $120,000. So for the next 3 payments, April, October, and April of 2021, we will still make 3 payments on the 2013 bond issue. Webster Bank is proposing refinancing the rest of that bond issue. And the recommendation, as was discussed at the last meeting, was to use these proposals from these banks because the rates are locked in. Unlike doing a bond issue, which could take anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks to run out the whole process, and bond rates, as you can see from their charts on the very first page of the inside cover, you can see how jagged rates are, especially in the most recent year, the last year or so. It's really been, well, actually since September. It's rather sawtooth in look. So rather than take the chance of missing an opportunity by waiting and timing for a bond issue, we're recommending, and it was discussed with Mr. Masha and myself along with the folks from PFM to take the bank financing, the final bottom line net savings for refunding the complete 2012 remaining bond issue would be $176,659, and that is after all the costs of doing that loan. And a much smaller savings for the 2013 refinancing of the $8.9 million, $72,565. So rather than wait and miss an opportunity because trying to do a bond issue, take these bank loans and strike now while we have good rates, and we can save money. The option that was discussed with the board in public was preferred, and I agree completely, to smooth out to the greatest extent possible our bond payments, our loan payments into the future. So we chose smoothing out over receiving some upfront money for possibly spending on whatever capital needs projects. So I believe that's probably what the folks from PFM would have said. I asked Mr. Botonic or Mr. Masha if you think there's anything more to add or anything different to that conversation. But we do recommend this approach.
We did have discussions over whether or not to, trying to think of the term, move up the payment dates from April to March and from October to September. Although there would be a little bit of savings involved in that, brings with it a degree of risk and additional expense in a different venue, and that is whenever we have gone through the experiences of 2 years recently and another one in the more distant past of the state not passing its budget in time and not having monies come in, the school district is greatly dependent upon that late summer and early fall on the school taxes coming in. And not feeling comfortable with September 15th or September 1st as being a deadline for that. Because obviously, you know, I see this a lot where individuals and especially mortgage companies that are collecting money in escrow, they wait to, you know, later in September, hanging on to that money, but still getting it in time to get the discount. So we felt that that was not an area that would be wise to pursue.
And that was certainly from a cash flow perspective. Advancing the payments 1 month, that doesn't seem like a significant issue, but especially most recently in the fall, late summer, fall of 2015, when the state did not pass a budget, cash flow became very critical. And advancing payments by even 1 month could have hazarded us into a situation in the future of possibly trying to do a quick loan to get over that hump. So we made that decision with the financial advisors to continue with the same payment schedule, October 1st and April 1st.
So we're refinancing more than we were going to?
Correct.
Okay, so instead of the 5 million, we're doing the 8 million.
Remember, first proposal was to sort of split the 13 issue.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Webster, there was a,
Yeah, Webster initially said they wanted to refinance just the 5.3 million.
right,
So now we're going to do the 8.9 million,
yes.
but save less overall.
Yeah, Webster was saying that if that 13 bond issue was stripped the way it was initially proposed by Public Financial Management, that the rate would change based on their internal models and the average life of the new loan. To take advantage of the rate that they proposed, PFM looked at it again from that perspective and said, you know, it would not make sense to split that bond issue basically in half. Let's refinance. I was hoping for all of it rather than leaving a small portion outstanding for 3 payments, but that's okay. That would have lowered your net present value if it forced in that $235,000 of additional principal that is coming due over the next year and a half, over the next 3 payments. So naturally, you'd like to see higher net present value savings, but those are savings, and from our perspective, significant.
Now, because of the change, is it worth it to go back to the other bank and see what their rates would be if we were refinancing the whole thing like we did?
Because they never had a chance to do this.
Just assume all that would take time, and by the time you would get the answer back, it could change.
So we just keep losing, like we lost money doing this, and now we're going to keep losing if we'd wait longer, right?
So,
Yes.
so Mr. Marnell, this BB&T would have had the opportunity to bid on this other one.
They never had a
And they
chance.
opted not to, correct? Okay. So they already were given a chance.
On this new one?
Well, to look at it in total, correct?
Banks only have so much of an appetite for doing these financings, so not as much of a return or an appetite to do both. On their side of the books, again, there's complicated tax ramifications on their side. They're looking to give us a bank qualified rate, and that was explained by the financial advisors of what that meant from a tax standpoint. So they have to be careful of how much they extend.
So you have in board docs a potential resolution This is not the final debt resolution, this just keeps the process going, but it does set instructions to prepare the final advertisement for Mr. Pastel to do that, and to have a meeting on the 9th to deal with this.
Does this affect our
The roll
debt
call,
service?
unfortunately, on the bottom of the prepared resolution is the old roll call, it's not the current members. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I have the wrong the template for the wrong existing board. The new board is not on here. At the
Gotcha.
end. It's the old one.
So, Mr. Marnell, these amounts, if we approve this tonight, these amounts will not change moving forward. This is where we're at.
That is correct.
Ready to move on?
Okay, bear with me. Amended and restated resolution to choose method of saving and a method of refinancing for continuing pursuit of Southmoreland general obligation bonds, refunding series of 2012, hereinafter 2012 GOB, and general obligation bonds, refunding series of 2013, hereinafter 2013 GOB, debt refinancing and meeting date for the final resolution incurring the new debt. Whereas the school board had previously adopted on November 21st, 2019, a resolution to choose method of saving and a method of refinancing for continuing pursuit of Southmoreland general obligation bonds, refunding series of 2012, hereinafter 2012 GOB, and general obligation bonds, refunding series of 2013, hereinafter 2013 GOB, debt refinancing and meeting date for final resolution incurring the new debt, hereinafter November 21st, 2019 resolution for refinancing debt. Whereas, as the 2013 GOB quote, Webster Bank has indicated that in order to get 2.228% rate with no penalty for early payoff, that if the district strips out $3.8 million, that the average life of the loan will be higher and not acceptable for that rate quote. You'll need a motion and a second. Be it resolved that the above parameters are incorporated by reference and as to the November 21st, 2019 resolution for refinancing debt, the board inserts in section 21A, 2.1A, the word all before the series of 2012 GOB and vacates the phrase in the portion of the 2013 GOB as designated on page 13 of the financial advisor schedule and reinstate 2.1A as below and vacates and restates 3D as below. Number 2, the board authorizes and directs the financial advisors to do the necessary preparation and work for a plan that will, number 1, select bond issues to be refinanced among the following: A, refinance and pay off all the series of 2012 GOB and the portions of the 2013 GOB designated as follows. As to the 2013 GOB refinance and payoff, the latest maturing $8,935,000 amount of bond and leave intact the shortest maturing bond totaling $235,000. And number 2, the school board chooses how to make savings. Select 1.
C.
It was C, which was decrease in level off the debt service of the remaining life of the issues and taking into consideration the general obligation bonds refunding Series B of 2014, which are not being refinanced without extending final maturities. And number 3, the school board chooses the method of refinancing, which was D, utilize bank loans for all of the 2012 GOB B, B, and T at 2.39% interest per annum, prepaying at 101% of remaining principal portion of GOB 2013 as stated above, Webster, at the 2.228% per annum. And number 3, December 9th, 2019 was chosen. The school board chooses a date for passing the official debt resolution. Bond counsel Clifford Pastel is authorized and directed to prepare the necessary advertisements and a debt resolution or debt resolutions consistent with the above for a public meeting on December 9th, 2019, beginning at 7 p.m. in the Southmoreland Middle School cafeteria, 200 Scotty Way, Scottsdale, Pennsylvania.
We need a motion?
Yes.
Have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Paul Coffey, second. Mrs. Smith? Heather? Oh, Mrs. Heather Smith, sorry. Not used to that yet. Roll call, please.
Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carson? Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 1 absent, 1 vacancy.
TFIM Club trip to New York.
Board is asked to consider the approval of a trip request for TFIM, the Future Is Mine Club at the high school, to participate in an educational trip to New York City, Saturday, May 9th to Sunday, May 10th, 2020.
Need a motion, please?
And there is a letter attached below.
Here, I have a question.
Pardon?
I was just wondering, like the, chaperones, why are the high school principals not chaperones? Why is it the middle school?
I do believe that Mrs. Sue Hart,
Volunteered.
she volunteered.
Oh, okay. I just thought the students, would listen better to their principal. But if she volunteered, she must want to go.
She was actually the assistant principal there
Right.
previous year, so she's well familiar with students also.
Okay.
Get a second?
No, I didn't get a
I have
motion.
a first now.
Oh, okay. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Smith. Heather Smith. Second.
I'll second.
Vote. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 1 absent, 1 vacancy.
Resignation of school security employees.
Board is asked to accept with regrets the retirement of Patsy Slate, school security, effective December 20th, 2019. We would like to thank Mr. Slate for his service to Southmoreland, and I personally would also like to thank Mr. Slate for everything he's done for our district.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Carson and Mrs. Heather Smith. Any discussion?
Is he going to be replaced?
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes, and I would also like to thank Mr. Patsy Slate for all his years of service to the district. We truly do appreciate it. Thank you, Patsy.
Motion carries 7, 1 absent, 1 vacancy.
Post and advertise the position of high school varsity girls soccer coach.
Board is asked to authorize the administration to post and advertise the position of varsity head girls soccer coach. That would be the high school position.
Need a motion? Heather Smith, second.
A second.
Chris,
Make it confusing.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Heather Smith?
Yes.
Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Rose?
Yes. Citizen comment? Seeing none? Adjournment, I need a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Person, second?
Second.
Williams? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
A lot easier to sit out there.
Did you log on?
It's good to know that I have friends, many people that
I'll take it.
I can argue with,
Does it
let
qualify?
it slide.
Well, it does, but you still have to log out because then someone can access your...
Let me know when you're gonna do that CSD.
Yes, I will.
Is that a
About
law?
this.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to run this.
Yeah.